in front of you, you're seeing what we call a capillary bed. No, enough. And so this part right here is the actual capillary. And you have different kinds of them. You have continuous, you have fenestrated, you have sinusoidal, and I have a slide for that. You have billions, about 10 billion capillary beds. This vessel leading to a capillary bed carrying oxygen-rich blood, which is why it's colored red, is called an arteriole. And this blood vessel leading away from the capillary bed, carrying oxygen-poor blood, is called a venule. So we're going to go through our blood vessels, and we're going to start with the ones, excuse me, hold on. I need to take care of this.
Professor Street,
yes.
Quick question. Are you recording this one? Because I don't see the record button.
I am recording it. I'm just not recording it through Zoom so that I can hide your pictures and post this to YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so it's a very short lecture. There are only 15 slides. It's a short outline. We're going to go over the anatomy of all the blood vessels. Then I will just discuss a little bit blood pressure, because all blood vessels have blood inside them, and that means there's pressure from the blood. And a lot of students ask me exactly what is blood pressure and how do we measure it. Then we will compare systemic circulation versus pulmonary circulation. So the blood circulation, we're going to go through these vessels in order. Vessels that come away from the heart are arteries. You have different kinds of arteries. We have elastic and we have muscular. Oh, these puppies are driving me nuts. I'm going to go in the other room. So I'm going to go over the anatomy of an elastic artery and a muscular artery. After arteries are arterioles. Arterioles are the smallest of all arteries. I will then point out what a metarteriole is, which leads to a capillary, which I showed you on the first slide. I will also explain what a thoroughfare channel is in a capillary. And then we'll go back toward the heart. We're going to go to venules and then veins. And after veins would be the vena cava, that dump the blood back into the right atrium of the heart. So we're going to go in order, away from the heart, back to the heart. So again, arteries, they go away from the heart. Think A for artery and A for away. They generally carry oxygen-rich blood, but not always. The defining characteristic of an artery is that it carries blood away from the heart. It is not a defining characteristic for an artery that it carries oxygen-rich blood. That is not a characteristic. In fact, one notable exception you will see at the end of this lecture is the pulmonary artery. It's an artery because it's carrying blood away from the heart, off of the right ventricle, but yet it's carrying oxygen-poor blood. It's carrying blood away from the heart toward the lungs for gas exchange. There are tunics. Another word for tunic is layer. There is an outer layer for blood vessels, and this outer layer is called the tunica adventitia. So this is the outer layer. I'm just going to abbreviate it, tunica adventitia. Sometimes it's called the tunica externa. It is connective tissue, specifically collagen, a little bit of elastin, and they're arranged in a longitudinal fashion. They go along the length of the blood vessel. The middle layer shown here is called the tunica media. And that is comprised of smooth muscle, spindle-shaped fibers. We went over this in our histology on Monday. So the tunica media, be mindful, some blood vessels don't have a tunica media, like the capillaries. And the tunica media can be different in size and width. Some blood vessels will have a very small diameter, but proportionally speaking, a very thick tunica media. Most notably, that's the arterioles. More on that in just a moment. The more internal layer shown here, highlighted in yellow, here is the, or not yellow, sorry, highlighted next to the yellow, but in pink is the tunica intima. Tunica intima. Here's another picture of the tunica intima in veins. And the tunica intima is simple squamous endothelium. So again, going from internal to external, we would have tunica intima, then the tunica media, and then the tunica adventitia. The tunica media, again, is smooth muscle, and this means that we can have blood vessels constrict when the tunica media contracts, or vasodilate when the tunica media relaxes. Please just excuse me, I'm going to go beat a little 6-month-old puppy into submission. I'll be right back. So those are our 3 tunics. And again, not all the blood vessels that I'm going to cover will have all 3 tunics. And as we go through all of the blood vessels, be mindful of what's happening to the tunics. Are they changing in width, like the tunica media? Or are they disappearing altogether, like the tunica media? So the first vessels I want to approach in detail will be our arteries. The major arteries coming off the right and left ventricle are the pulmonary artery and the aorta, respectively. These are elastic arteries. Why are they called that? Their elastic fibers are actually found here within the tunica media, the middle layer. Those elastic fibers are actually intertwined with the smooth muscle fibers. We still have a tunica externa, which is the collagen and some elastin, and we have the tunica intima. The tunica intima in this picture is colored yellow in this picture. Well, I should say, again, next to the yellow. It's actually a very thin pink layer, a simple squamous endothelium. What they're showing you in that yellow part of the picture is the basal lamina, the basement membrane, if you will, that the simple squamous endothelium has to anchor into. Now, elastic arteries are important for their elastic properties. That's why they're named that. And a lot of students think that the most important part of elastin is its stretchability. That's not true. The most important property of elastic tissue is the recoil, being able to go back to a normal shape. These elastic arteries closest to your heart, they receive the entire stroke volume coming out of the ventricles, which is about 70 milliliters. So they must be able to stretch. Of course, stretching is important to accommodate all of that 70 milliliters, but also they need the ability to recoil. And these elastic arteries will recoil when the heart starts to rest, when the ventricles rest. And as these large arteries recoil, they push on the blood inside. That's your blood pressure. And as they push on the blood inside, it moves the blood further down the vasculature to the next group of arteries. That's why we say arteries go away from the heart, they branch, they diverge. One large elastic artery like the aorta is going to branch off into smaller arteries called muscular arteries. They are still in close proximity to the heart, and they are still receiving quite a good amount of that stroke volume, but not all of it. You see, as the blood goes through the aorta, there are options, sort of like off-ramps off of the freeway. So muscular arteries are actually arteries that will lead to particular organs. For example, there's a brachial artery that serves your biceps brachii. Okay, brachial artery is a muscular artery. There's an artery that goes to your stomach. There is an artery that goes to your intestines. Those are all muscular arteries. They're going to organs. They also have very good elastic property. But what makes them very different from the elastic arteries is the arrangement of their elastic tissue. The elastic arteries had their elastic tissue threaded in between the smooth muscle cells within the tunica media. For muscular arteries, they have their elastic tissue in lamina. Lamina means sheets. Tunica means layers. So we have an internal elastic lamina, and we have an external elastic lamina. So the internal elastic lamina, I'm just abbreviating, is in between, I'm going to put it in parentheses, so it's in between the tunica intima and the tunica media. The external elastic lamina is in between